I work at a 7-Eleven. The Slurpy machine is my boss. I have to feed it people. I didn't believe them at first. It was so ridiculous. But as soon as the clock struck 2:59 and 59 seconds, the incessant ticking stopped. And so did my heart. It was true. It was all true. I looked down at my phone. The crack in the screen, a constant reminder of my past, of how I got here, of what I needed to do. The message on the screen read the address. It was only 2.5 blocks away. I had an hour. The screeching of a stool drew my attention. I looked across the 7-Eleven to the cashier, D, who was casually pulling out a stool from under the counter and sitting down. I noticed that the small chatter from the 3 customers in the store had stopped. My blood ran cold as I looked at their faces. They stood there, eyes dulled, faces limp, swaying slightly. This is it. They've been put into sleep mode or something. All I knew was that now this was proof of what I needed to do. He didn't even look at me. He reached over the counter and grabbed a taquito out of the warmer. His small rebellion against the store. We know we are not supposed to, but he always does anyways. I'm too scared to break any rules. They could have thrown me out, and the next thing I know, I would be back where I came from. He just looked at his phone, trying to avoid the nightmare. As I left the store, I stood in front of the house. It was a small house, blue, at least in the street light. It looked a little bit blue. They said arrangements were made. I don't know what they meant by that, but I'd have to assume. I put my hand on the doorknob and it opened. I walked inside. It was a long hallway. I saw a light and walked towards it, entering the living room. There was a man, slumped over on the couch. He appeared to be asleep, but his eyes were open, staring at the TV. It was frozen on a single frame. An advertisement for Polaris Slushies, the new slushy company that was taking over 7-Eleven. I looked down at my phone, reading the message in my mind, sent from Polaris Corporate. Bring previous employee Jacob Sutter to the back room. There was an image that matched the man lying on the couch. At the bottom of the message, there was a line. The words I was supposed to speak. You abandoned us, so now we'll make you one of ours. The man jolted upright and looked directly at me. The cold, empty stare made my fingers and toes itch and tingle, like I just wanted to tear that face off. There was something wrong with it. I stepped backwards, and he took a step forward. Then I took another step, and so did he. He was locked in. I walked back to the 7-Eleven, the men trailing behind me. Jacob. I didn't even want to think about that name. I didn't want to think about what I was about to do, or how it was even possible. In this small town, some things just seemed out of place, giving a whole new meaning to Uncanny Valley. I walked back into the 7-Eleven. He looked up at me, then looked at Jacob with a look of recognition and sadness. He'd seen many try to leave, but they'd all be back for that one purpose: to feed the machine. No one escaped it. That's the first message they were sending to us, or at least to me, because I was new. I don't know how long Dean had been here, but he obviously knew the system. I walked into the back and opened a large metal door with a sign on it that read, "Warning, electrical, do not enter." The sound of a conveyor belt turning on shot through my ears, the ringing of it, a loud generator, more kicks and trips of levers, and sounds of machinery, moving parts and gears flushing to life. I put my hand on Jacob's shoulder and lowered him onto the conveyor belt. I stared in horror at the thought of what I was going to do as he was slowly fed into the machine. I stared in horror at the thought of what I was doing as he was slowly fed into the machine. I heard her voice from the outside. It sounded like a warning, something like time. Must have been Dee shouting at me. It was feeding through clear plastic flaps like those in a slaughterhouse. The blades swishing against each other. I thought to myself, I should have put him head first, not feet first. The magnitude of the deed I had done was almost too much. But this was all I had left, and this was all I could do. The grinding and the flesh-flinging sound filled my ears. I stared into the man's eyes. He didn't even flinch as it moved slowly up his body, devouring his legs and then his torso. His eyes blinked, and he began to scream, only for a couple of seconds before it died out when he was dead, the rest of his body being fed into the machine. I slumped down on the floor. I looked at my phone. 4 a.m. And that was my orientation. A full-fledged member of 7-Eleven, secretly employed by the Polaris Slushy Company. I didn't have any papers. They just picked me up in a bus and said, "You want to go to America? Well, get on the bus." I had nothing else. I looked down at my cracked phone. That day came back to me, the sound whistling in my ears, me holding my sister in my arms, trying to protect her, praying that the blast didn't land on us. It didn't, but it was close enough. The building shook. My hands began to shake. I almost dropped the phone. As the memory flooded my mind, a piece of shrapnel, grass, blood in my hands. That last moment when fumbling for my phone, dropping it, cracking the screen, lifting it up, and just knowing it was the final moments. I played the video on my phone of my sister dying in my arms, tears streaking down my cheeks. I didn't have anything left, so I had to run away. They'd taken everything from me, and I was here in America, away from that horrendous place where bombs were falling and people were screaming, eating rats, eating cockroaches, just trying to survive every day. Was this any better? No. I looked at the Slurpy in my hand. I had to at least try it. It was the company policy. They said, "You try it or you're done. And you know what happens if you're done." The only thing I had left of her was the video on my phone. I had taken a picture of the first frame, when her eyes sparkled, where she knew it was the end, but she just wanted to tell me that she loved me and that it was okay, and that I was stronger than her, and that I deserved to live. That's what broke me. I deserved to live. No, she deserved to live. I shouldn't have lived. I looked down at my name tag, my oversized shirt. The company, of course, didn't even want to pay to give me a new one. They said, "Go find one in the lost and found." All of them were too small except this one, which was too big. The name tag hung halfway at an angle because of it, and they couldn't even get it right. Ram, not Rabby. No one knows how to spell around here. I have better English skills, and I've only known English for a year and a half. Started with my sister. She wanted to learn, so when we got out of Gaza and finally moved on with our lives, we could go to the great America and live our lives in freedom and peace. Well, I found that to be such a joke now. We're trapped here. I know what happens if I create. And not just that, they know everything about me. That's the reason why I'm here. Because they brought me here. I don't have any papers. I'm undocumented. And from what I've seen, they have as much control as the government. Maybe even more. With corporations. America is nothing like I had imagined it to be. I scrolled through my phone, looking at the email from Polaris. The contract I had signed. Non-disclosure agreement. Anything I see inside the store is not to be sent outside the store or to anyone outside of employment. Welcome to the team. Remember, ICE is always watching you, but it's up to us whether they act. And you always have the choice. Back to your home or join the rest of your ex-employees. No choice at all. It's a different kind of prison. An invisible prison. But you could feel it around you everywhere you went. And you knew everyone else felt it too. I closed my eyes, put the straw to my lips and sucked. It was the most magnificent taste I had ever tasted. How did it taste so good? What did they do? How did they mix? How did they make him into this? It was stunning. A crash of flavors. Highs and lows, like a symphony in your mouth. Tiny little slushy pieces of ice, some larger, melting at different speeds. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced. Not that I had experienced anything great anyways. Ever since I came here, all I'd been eating was taquitos and hot dogs. That's all they would feed me. I had nowhere to go. That's why I slept here, in this broken freezer. It's a little bit cold, but not even enough to chill water. I got a foam mattress and a pillow and blanket. Well, half a sleeping bag basically. More than I ever had at home. A message came through my phone. I looked down. The time was 4:05. 5 minutes had passed. It felt like eternity thinking about what I'd done. A new message on my phone said, "Congratulations, you're now part of the team. Full-fledged. You have consumed the beverage. As the newest employee, we are giving you the ability to name the newest drink. There will be slight variations of it, so think of something that we can add a preface or suffix to. Thank you for your contribution to the company. Please respond within 10 minutes, and remember, we're watching." I took a deep sigh, putting my head against the wall, looking at the phone. Red Death. It's all that could come to my head. The scream of the man, splattering against the coverings. And they ended red. Guilt pressed at me. What was I to do? This was America. I closed my heavy eyelids, my eyes burning from the tears I'd shed. Both. I can't even remember his name now. I guess that's a good thing. And my sister. What would she think of me? I had to do it. But she would never forgive me. I lowered my phone and cried myself to sleep. My phone buzzed me awake with the time. 12:30 p.m. My shift started at 4. 12-hour shifts. Just enough to get by and enough time to kill. It was quiet in the freezer. As soon as I opened the door, the chatter and banter and voices filled my ears. It was a little bit of a struggle to get myself to walk out to the front, to confront everyone out there, to know what I had done, to look at them slurping up what they didn't know was a delicious, harmless drink. The day went on. I was mindlessly mopping the floor, stocking the shelves, but that lineup out the door never ended. And they were all here for one thing. The Cherry Crush Red Death. Every day there was a new variation. Today it was Exotic Day. That was the quota. One per day to keep the supply running. This was my first official day, and it was coming to a close. Even now, there wasn't so much a lineup outside, but there was also at least a couple of customers in the store at any given time. When I looked up, I heard D counting down from 10. I raised an eyebrow at him. He raised a finger like, 1 moment. He was looking at his phone, and then he said, 1. The door opened. That sweet, almost ding-dong sound of the alert, and a smile spread across Dee's face. He said, been timing you now for 3 weeks. You ain't been a second late. That's pretty impressive considering the drift time on clocks. I looked over to the young man who just entered. He also had a smile on his face, his skin just as ebony as Dee's, although Dee was probably in his late 20s with curly black hair. He always wore the same too tight to fit shirt that showed off what he thought were his muscles. Not like I was going to correct him on that, but some people did. No, that's when he would lose his temper. I think that's probably how he lost his front tooth. He says most of them are veneers, but the one that he put the most effort into, his front left tooth, is gold-plated. From what I know of him, all he does is play Candy Crush on his phone and swear at customers. But he also steals taquitos every point in time he can. I was more of a hot dog man than taquito man. The two men raised their hands and fist bumped as they laughed and began to banter back and forth. I just kept my head down, kept stocking the shelves. I heard my name called. Dee said, hey Rami, this is my brother Malik. He works at the Shell across the street. He always comes by on his break. You'll probably get to know him pretty well. I was confused by the fact that he was even talking to me. He normally ignored me. I wondered, was he putting on a show for his brother? The same way I would do it for my sister. Amp everything up. Make it seem more exciting or dramatic than it was. Make myself seem more important than I was. That I knew the people that I didn't. Or just stories. And he made her happy. It's all that mattered to me. To see her smile. I walked over to the slushy machine. It seemed a little odd, but he eyed the machine. Eyed the cup. Lowering his head down to eye level, examining it with precision. Dee looked over at me and shrugged, laughing, and said, the kid's crazy, but he knows what he's doing. He's got his own method about it. You know what I mean? Says one day he's going to crack the code, figure out what makes that slushy so good. I narrowed my eyebrows and looked at him. He shook his head like a no. I shrugged. I wouldn't have told my sister either. There's some things you just keep to yourself. You can think of it as protecting them, but it's probably more protecting yourself. Malik walked over to me, put out his hand. Hello, Ram, is it? I'm Malik. Nice to meet you. Ignore D. He's our, you know. I got all the smarts and he got all the charisma in the family. D narrowed his eyes, but he didn't say anything. Malik looked over his shoulder at him and smiled. They shared some sort of silent gesture, like me with my sister. I put out my index and middle finger, and we would touch the tips of our fingers and make a diamond and say, one day I'll buy you a diamond the size of our fingers. It was always just a fantasy in my head, but there was always a possibility. Now there will never be. I took a deep breath. I had to take out the garbage. I shook his hand. Nice to meet you, Malik. It's Rami. Actually, they don't know how to spell my name. But I had to take out the trash. Enjoy the Slurpy. Pray you never find the true ingredient. He eyed me suspiciously. See, you know what it is. I leaned in to whisper into his ear. No. But if you find it, and your journey will be complete, then what? He laughed and tapped me on the shoulder and said, pointing at the sign, Then I'll buy all of this and I'll make it better and not corporate. I laughed. It's probably the first time in a while I'd laughed. A cynical laugh, though. He was young and naive, but hopefully he never had to find out. That would be his paradise. Malik stepped back and pulled his phone out of his pocket. 10, 9, he began counting down. Well, I got to get back to work. 8, 7, 6. As he hit 1, he stepped out of the door and waved to D. See you later tonight at home, bro. And then I walked over to the trash, gathered it all up, and walked to the back of the building where the dumpster was. The sound of metal clanking, bags shuffling, and a groaning sound. Then a thud and silence. I walked cautiously through the gate into the trash area. The lid of the dumpster was open. Beside it, as I lowered the garbage bags off my back onto the ground, relaxing my shoulders, I peered inside the dumpster. Would met my gaze made the hair on the back of my neck prickle, hair on my arms, my legs. I started to breathe heavily. Is he dead? A man's gravely, shrubs of clothing, scabs all over his arms and face. His eyes were closed, but he wasn't moving. Well, this wasn't going to be any fun. I jumped inside the dumpster. These were pretty much my only clothes at this point. What was I to do? I tapped him with my foot. He just kind of moved a little bit. And then I tapped him again. Nothing. I looked at my phone. 2:15. Still another 45 minutes. Maybe no one would notice him. I climbed out of the dumpster, shuffling off a little bit of the debris on my clothes. Then I offed the bags into the dumpster and closed the lid. I went back inside. I had my target for the night. 1 a night. That was the quota. He was already dead, right? Or did it matter? The look on my face said it all when I walked back in. D just raised his eyebrow, leaning over the counter, and went back to finishing the rest of my duties as the customers came and went as usual. Even in the middle of the night, a couple here, a couple there. And then I looked at my phone. 2:59 a.m. It was collection time. I already had a name prepared for my new slushy favor. He tapped his taquito 3 times as I left the store, his little salute to my progress. I wondered what was holding him here. It had to be the same as me. Something trapping him, twisting him. How many had he seen? Had he been the one to do it himself? I could never bring up the conversation. That was one of the rules, pretty much self-implied, right? Don't talk about the fact that our secret ingredient is people. I dragged the body out of the dumpster and into the store. There was only one person in the store, or at least a couple of people outside walking towards it. And they all just stared and swayed like they normally did. That full hour that I had, I could take and rest. But I had to make sure the machine didn't get clogged. So I had to stay there as it ground him up. You could hear the slurping, sloshing, juicing him into slush, using him as fuel for the mechanical deliciousness that would be served out of that spout. Across the wall, I looked at my phone. 4 a.m. Shift's over. I sat down on my makeshift bed in the freezer, pulled out my phone and watched that final moment as I cried myself to sleep, trapped under the boot of something more ferocious than I could have ever imagined, because I was actively playing a part in it, not just a bystander being affected. Every night, this would be my night. How long would I be able to endure it? I woke up again to my alarm, and another day passed by. And now the lineup seemed even longer, or lasted even longer. By the time Malik came into the store at 1:45 exactly, as always, at least 10 or 15 people in the store. The new flavor, Exodus, was a massive hit. It will say something about the sugar giving them a rush they've never had before. wondering if it was real sugar. Some even joked maybe it is like Coke back in the days when they had you-know-what in it. I'm sure that they couldn't have been too off base. Who knows what was in that man's blood? He most likely died of an overdose of some kind of drug. Not a good life to live. At least now he can be a surplus for other people. It's a good way to think about it. As recycling. I'm doing my rounds, mopping the floors. I was listening to Malik and Dee converse. Malik said, "This old line of Red Death that's been going on is something new to it. I mean, the Slurpees have always been really good, but maybe it's just me, the way this place creates with having a new flavor every day. I don't know how they do it. I've been trying to break it down, but because they change so much, I pretty much got it down to C8, H10, N4, or 2 with a proprietary twist." Dee rolled his eyes at his brother. "You and your college speak. The only one in our family who actually got the smarts. Bring it down a notch for me." Malik looked aside and leaned over the counter. "We should pay more attention," he said. "This is important. If I want to crack this code, you're going to have to help me with it. I know you can't spill the secrets, but you know, I can still prod you." Dee lifted his arms off the counter and stood tall. "Not like I even know what it is. I mean, me and Rami over there, we're just a cashier and the janitor. Well, we will get a truck once a week for like refills and stuff. Not every day. We just have a bunch of different flavors stocked in the back. You know, don't ask me, I'm just the janitor. I just keep the shelves stocked and the floors clean. He just sells the food. It's pretty much it." Malik pulled the phone from his pocket again. On cue, began to count down as he walked out the door. He hit 1. Always perfect timing. He said, "I'll catch you guys tomorrow," as he walked out the door. "See you later tonight, Dee." I looked at my phone. 2:45. I had no target. I didn't find anyone in the dumpster, and the street seemed to be oddly empty tonight. And then he strolled in, not even trying to hide it. He instantly raised the gun and said, "Give me everything that's in the register." I froze and dropped the mop. The sound of it hitting the floor. He turned, pointed the gun at me, and as I raised my hand with a gasp, "Don't make any funny moves!" I nodded my head back and forth. "I am not hero." He turned back towards Dee, and Dee just stood there, shocked, his hands raised. He just calmly began to remove the bills and hand them to the robber. "Amen," he said. "It's our policy. We just give you the money. It's all good. Don't worry about it, man." The robber raised his eyebrow. "Bro, you got some tricks up your sleeve or something like that?" He turned back towards me to make sure I wasn't moving. My heart was pounding in my chest. I knew my target, but I needed time. I looked at the clock on the wall. 2:57. All I needed was 2 minutes. Just enough time. I had a plan. "You know, they keep the good pills in the back," I blurted out. He turned towards me. "What do you say?" I was like, "In the back? You know, like, I don't like this place, right? You want to do some damage? Go in the back." Smile spread across his face. "Alright, smarty. You'll bring me into the back there and you show me where I got to go. If this is a trap, you're both dead." And he just slowly backed away. "Yeah, no problem, man. Again, it's kind of policy. When these guys deserve it, you know what I mean?" I glanced towards the clock. 15 seconds. That's all I needed. I turned around to walk towards the back. "Yeah, just follow me over here." We were inching closer. Let's turn around the corner, and he froze. Gun still gripped in his hand, but his eyes went dull. 2:59. Oh my God. I let out a sigh of relief and my heart rate began to slow down. Just a little bit. 2 birds with 1 stone, right? I wonder what this will do. But again, I know exactly what I'm going to name the flavor for tomorrow. and this one I might actually enjoy. So those magic words that made him follow me as I opened that large door and shuffled him into the conveyor belt, purposefully feet first. He wouldn't wake up. But maybe he felt it. It would be a small consolation to me. I almost enjoyed the sound now. The grinding, the squishing, splashing, all the sounds. And then the test. The taste test. It was overwhelming with a fruit punch, like a fruit tsunami, a fruit volcano. I wonder what my sister would think of me now. Before that, the old photo picture of the video on my phone, when I pulled out my phone, that crack taunting me as I played the video again, this time. Nor the tears streamed down my face. I am losing more and more of myself. I slumped down and wanted to cry, but I couldn't. I took her picture and placed it on a piping at the machine, a solid place for it to sit. I'm going to take a little bit of the slushy on my finger and place it to the picture. Just a little taste, Gemma. That's all I can do for you now. More days pass. More victims. I managed to find a seemingly homeless people just outside the store, within a couple of blocks. There always seemed to be someone out and about this time, ready to come to grab a Slurpy. I didn't feel comfortable at first just nabbing random people, so I inspected them first, the clothes, their faces, choosing the ones who I think would benefit the most from being a Slurpy. Better than the lives they probably lived currently. At least they could bring a little bit of happiness to someone else. I'd gotten to know Dee and Malik a little bit more through small conversation. Half an hour every day, on time, every time. Malik, ever the inspired scientist trying to crack the code of why the Slurpy was so good. He could never know. Would never know. For Dee, it would break him. He devoured those Slurpees like every test was a wine tester, trying to surmise which fruits and which percentages the wine was made from. He always had a notebook in his hand or under his arm, and there was a periodic table bookmark, colored in uncertain elements, like he was building a map of the slushy, its changes, its forms, trying to predict its future. I did have a good pattern, but I was probably running out of them. Something about it. Less and less people seemed to have run-down lives. Was that a good thing? Cleaning up the streets in a way? And the people were still always lined up out the door. This place was never empty, and never get enough. And now to the point where I don't think one is enough. Company growth is always a good thing, right? Keep profiting. At this rate, there wouldn't be anyone left. But even then, this place has been open for years, and they've been doing this every day. One person every day for years. It's unfathomable no one would ever notice. Such a large place. I guess that's the key. Picking the ones that they wouldn't notice. That's what I did at first. And no one came asking about some random things. But the security footage would never show anything. It was as if the machine consumed more than just their flesh, their memory. We were pretty good actors at this point in time. Dee had been doing it a lot longer than me though. I think his nonchalance was actually real. I don't even think he was acting anymore. But that would be brought to the test on one day. The hum and buzz of the machine died. The mixing stopped. And the lineup. Everyone's faces all shocked and concerned. And then it happened. Almost instantly. Those with Slurpees were jumped by those without Slurpees. A giant riot, cacophony of savage aggression like animals. They fought, licked it off the ground. So they had no will of their own. They just needed that sustenance, that substance, that sugary, delicious high in their bodies. And then an alert on my phone. Emergency, report to the back, instructions will come. I backed away. This little onslaught continued in front of me. D was just hiding behind the counter like he had seen this happen before. He was terrified. It's the first time I'd seen a real look on his face. I backed into the back room. There was the sound of a receipt printing just above the conveyor belt. Behind it, a slip of paper folded out. Brain 5 failure. Connect a new brain. This confused me. What did a brain have to do with a machine? And underneath it, it said, open compartment 5 to find organic matter with high function. Target acquired. Send a message when brain detached. My fingers moved on their own, desperately trying to get them to grip the handle. They were shaking. Everything about it was wrong. I didn't want to see what was on the other side of this panel, but I knew that I had to. Everything that I had done, everything I was running from, everything that I wanted was here. And all I had to do was prove myself worthy. And that's what I had been doing. I'd been getting praise continuously from the company on my efforts, taunting me with more. So I brought them the profits they were looking for. Was this the more they were talking about me? Privilege and knowledge that others lack? I opened the panel, heartbeat thumping in my head, but it wasn't mine. Slimy, bloody, veiny wires like organic connections, fibers connecting in a fluid almost like jelly. And there were 5 brains, 4 bright and throbbing, pulsing wires protruding from all ends. And then there was the 5th, dark, almost reddish, not grey anymore. It was black like dried blood. And it was clearly the malfunction. And then I had to go in there and put my hand in that. What they want. Me just to go in and rip the blame out? That's all I knew what to do. I put my hand to the jelly. The cords around the brain detached. It just sat there and floated. I gulped as I grasped my hand around it. I never really had to do any of the dirty work. Other than dragging that one dead homeless guy, everything else they just walk in, put themselves on the conveyor belt, and be devoured. It was simple. It was easy. All I had to do was bring them here. Almost as if they got forgotten by everyone, with something about the system, and now I think I knew. These brains controlling everything. Maybe they are just small pieces of the puzzle. One small system holding everyone in, controlling them, modifying them, preparing them. That's why this place was so strange. Has answered all of the questions. Must be something else in the Slurpy that forces people's addiction, that brings them here, keeps them under that spell at 2 to 59, with the entire town infected by something. What they want is that Slurpy. And now they're out there pretty much killing each other because there's no more Slurpy. Or if there ever was an emergency, it was now. And I knew exactly what I needed to do. I didn't want to do it, but I looked at my phone and I knew what the answer would be. Malik. His young brain. Curious. He would be an easy lure. I wouldn't even have to wait. I just tell him, you want to know the secret formula? I'll just show you, 'cause I need your help in fixing the machine. I ran outside of the room and called to D through the cacophony of people still slurping off the floor. They just knew no better than to try and smash the machine, but they were getting the last drops of it, sucking and fighting to suck off of the tap. It was a madhouse, and police were starting to arrive, calm people down, stop people, kicked them out of the building. I went over to D and said, "Hey, I need your brother." And D just help with this. The company's authorized me to give him the secret ingredient if he can help us fix it. So can you call him over here? D was done and surprised. But looking at the cacophony around, he was like, "Yeah, it's a pretty big disaster. I've only seen it happen once before, but this is worse. Before there was only 10 or 15 people. But now talking like 45 people out there, bashing heads. At least they're not breaking anything. Just one miracle. I think that's subconscious. The store protecting itself. The machine protecting itself. It can only exert a little bit of influence, but it's enough. And that's probably what caused this. A distraction. Malik came rushing into the store, eyes wide as I grabbed him and pulled him to the side. "Hey, it's true, okay? If you help us fix this, we'll give you the secret ingredient." Malik's eyes beaming, giddy and ready to go. The other customers tackling each other and slurping things off the ground, heading for the taps, sucking off the taps and fighting for it. I walked him to the back and opened a large metal door. I walked over to the testing station and poured a Slurpy. "Alright, try this." I gave him the Slurpy. He got me confused like I said, "Just drink it and tell me what you think." He began to drink, and then his eyes rolled into the back of his head. He fell to the ground and slumped. A piece of paper printed out of the printer on the wall, and the conveyor belt began, only backwards. And the compartment on the back opened. The paper said, "Put a body on conveyor belt, head facing open slot." So I did. It was a little bit harder than the normal ones, but it still wasn't, that bad. I was doing it for the company. I was doing it to survive. I was doing it because I had no other choice. Just as his head went through up to his neck, the door slammed shut, decapitating him. And then the conveyor belt reversed, and the body slid into the grinder. More fuel for the machine. And there was the sound of gears and surgical tools, bone cracking, skin peeling, almost a popping sound. And then the tray opened again. Looking there, blood started. Blood, bone matter, hair. What was left of what used to be a face. And one completely intact brain, with the brain stem attached. Sound of the printing paper again. And I looked at it. Brain in jelly. I opened the panel, picked up the brain and placed it inside. The wires snapped into place, consuming and surrounding the brain, latching onto it, holding it in place, leveled with the others. And then the machine shot to life. The swirling began again. I could hear the injection process as the ice was refrozen and then shredded and laced into the juices. And then the familiar swaying and swishing of the churning of the machine. I left the room and closed the door. How was D going to react? Did he suspect it? Could he have suspected it happened so fast? That this riot? I think that was the distraction. That's what it was. It wasn't for anything but D, so he wouldn't think, so he wouldn't stop me, he wouldn't try. I took a deep breath, preparing for the worst. So I walked around the corner. D held his phone in his hand, outstretched towards me, tears in his eyes, fury on his face. But he knew he couldn't act. The message said, "New parameter set, agreement changed, unexpected circumstances, Malik terminated, new conditions, talk, and the rest of your family is next." I wanted to console him, but at least he had a family. I didn't have a family. I didn't have anything. That was all taken from me. But I was the one who had taken it from him. I could see the resentment in his eyes when I pleaded with him that it wasn't my decision. It wasn't my fault. I didn't break the machine. It was probably because it was too popular. There were too many people. I couldn't keep up with it. It was getting old. It needed a younger, newer, stronger brain. And now Malik knew the secret, and he was part of it. And I tried to convince Dee that Malik would be happier this way. He just clenched his fists and sat down. The riot basically stopped. Everyone lined back up. They just wanted their slushies and paid no attention to us, other than just buying. We were background objects to them, nothing more than the machine itself, as they consumed what they didn't know. Smiles on their faces, death in their stomachs. I woke up again to the alarm, startled. I looked at the message on my phone. New parameters. New quota updated to daily, increased from 1 to 2. Flavor challenge. Mix and match the new mixology. They always change the game, and there's nothing you can do about it. Once you're in, you're stuck. With the new upgrade came a new feature, like fortune cookies on every cup, printed a message. It peeled away to reveal it, something profound and personal, somehow something too close to home from just a sample output. The picture of my sister, almost completely covered in slushy juice, her image almost completely faded away from the taste that I had given her. My mind at this point is so far gone, I almost wanted to delete the video on my phone, though I had left. I didn't want a connection with her anymore. I wanted to forget because I knew what she would think of me for what I was doing. And somehow the machine taunted me. Was it Marek? For all the taste tests that I do, there is always a message on the cup. Something that reminds me of her. Something that reminds me of him. It reminds me of what I've done. What I'm fighting for. A future. And now I've found it. All my hard work has come through. The paperwork is done. I am a full-fledged citizen of America. A full-time employee. I've been promoted. Now I oversee multiple 7-Elevens. I choose the staff, recruitment, and we're doing pretty good. Spreading across the nation, infecting everyone with that small piece. I don't know what it is, if it's some sort of nanotechnology or biotechnology, but the more it spreads, the more people it devours, the stronger it gets. The more voices you hear, the more it pulls on your strings. Now, I find myself walking to a strange warehouse. Unknown how I got here. We know now that it's 2:59:59. Thank you for listening. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. The blue might catch up to you if you do not. Be sure to check out more blue horror stories.